almost 5 years, I was researching Auroville as a topic, and the more I went deeper into it, I felt there was one missing link to the whole thing, and that was the city. And as soon as I came to the city, the whole concept and all the ideas and the whole experiment made so much sense. And actually I wanted to share it. And so then the opportunity came when Jaya from Unity Pavilion, she came and she asked me, why don't we do something a little bit elaborate? And I was very grateful for that. And we got together this beautiful team which was there to support. So then the research went on with that. And basically what is interesting about this exhibition is to understand, okay, it is definitely a vision-born town, which is what you see over here. It's a vision coming down to manifestation. So, but what this vision was trying to do is really change human beings and human society and human life and architecture and the way we live, the way we make cities. So all those things are part of this experiment and part of the city, and I wanted people to discover that. It was the city as an experiment, the city as both the spiritual and material experiment, and that was so fascinating. And then I could go back to the work of Mother and Auroville, and it started to, there was this perfect meeting of the two. And there is this little thing which we know that back in 1931, when the mother was asked that, what are you all doing now, what is your work? And she said, well, the main work is to bring the consciousness down to the level of matter, and when that manifests, it has to take shape in the outward world through a model town. These three, it's like a triptych. So I wanted to bring the connection of from the mother's first time when she's talking about this consciousness that needs to come down, is waiting to come down, and waiting for people receptive to give form to it. Yeah? And she spoke about that several times. And once she started on the city, she gave this one. This was her drawing to the architect. And with the basics, 4 zones, center, things like that. The architect came with the first conventional model, which was not even looked at. It's it was worked out in so much detail if you look at it, but it was not even looked at. So the line started here. So as soon as the architect came to this, she was extremely happy. The circle model of the nebula, and it had the center, it had the ring, and it had, well, the complete ring of the circle. Of the city. But it was not enough. She liked it very much, and obviously the architect felt that something still needed to be done. And he afterwards said that, what I showed her was just another military town because it is very rigid and there's not much flexibility between things, and very tight. So then he started, he actually went through many drawings. Here, he's trying to break out, he's trying to go into the spin. And once the spin comes, I don't have everything, there's some down there. Okay. So then he came to another one, which is called the macro structure. And this was actually very technologically elaborate and difficult to manifest at that time. But the main drawback, it seems, was these very wide lines of force actually. Right. And which would then block the rest of the town from the center. Okay. So then, that they went back to the drawing board and they finally came with this. Yeah. So this was then, instead of doing that, there were many.
And it's open.
It's open.
And it is just connecting.
Yeah, so it's open.
Very dynamic.
Yeah, so it's open to the center, it's open to wind flows, it's open to, nature, everything. So that was the point. And that was accepted. And then you see, this was done, there was no Matri Mandir. So the center was left. When she wrote the charter, she's writing this, but to live in Auroville, one must be a willing servant of the divine consciousness. She says, I'm not putting it here, but that is the Matri Mandir. So the first part was really, when the mother is saying the conditions in which men live upon earth are the result of their state of consciousness, and without changing that, there's no hope for change. And then in this part, I actually brought in some of what the architects have said, because we are talking about a city. And I found that so fascinating from Buckminster Fuller. He says, you never change anything by fighting the existing reality. To change something, you build a new model. And here you have them saying, you know, beginning with the model town. So that was the whole thing, that, you know, that their work in consciousness was to touch matter, and that matter had to manifest in real time, in real life, through this model town.